very good question.
Thank you for staying with us. Now we've come to the lifestyle segment. And like Ayo said before we went on break, every time we finish that lifestyle segment, we're always very sober. Because it tells us things that we had not come to appreciate. We probably knew those things, but we were not practicing them. And we were told by these coaches that those days are gone. Now you need to pay attention. You need to practice what you know. It's not just knowledge you put in a drawer. You have to practice those things, otherwise you'll have children that you don't want to know. And having children that you don't want to know, I'm sure, is nothing that anybody wants. So the family is responsible for shaping a child and influencing his or her values, her skills, socialization, and security during these childhood development stages. So raising children can be difficult, not can be, is difficult, but it can also be extremely rewarding. Remember to not only teach the child, but make sure that you act in the way that the child you expect, make sure you act as the person you want your child to be. In other words, don't just teach the child, show the child by example. Do what you want the child to do. Don't say one thing and do something else. Well, we'll be hearing more about all this from a family life counselor, Mr. Ayo Daniels.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for coming
today. Thank you. Good morning.
I have said a lot. Even I am getting scared. So, how does the life of a family build a child and make the child into what a parent will be proud of?
Okay, thank you again. I believe that this is a very interesting conversation today. And I believe that our society globally have come to that point where we need to talk about these things. The family unit, I use just one word, influence. From the line that you drew up earlier on, the fact that a parent must be the number one example. You know, a child comes into our world, and the first interaction for most people is the family, whether it's the nucleus family or extended family, depending on the circumstances. So influence, I believe, is that word. Influence goes beyond just giving out an instruction. Influence is actually living the life for the child to see. You know, in English language, they said everyone comes with that plain table, tabula rasa. But we take information from the environment. And those information are actually shaping us, whether positively or negatively. There is a saying in the local parlance around here. We talk about those kids, boys, girls, who happen to fend for themselves because they don't have a family. We call them area boys, area fathers. But the truth is that the presence of those children in our society are proof that they are probably area fathers and area bonders. So influence is that key word that we need to look at, how the life of a child is shaped by the family.
Let me be a little more provocative.
Okay.
At the heart of a family is a marriage.
Yeah.
A mother and a father.
Yeah.
And we have discovered on this program, as Salero mentioned, so most of today's parents need parenting. So that suggests that the people who got married or have children are children themselves, be it at heart or whatever. So can you take us to the heart of the matter? What are the things responsible for discord or disharmony in marriages that spill into family life, that spill into the lives of the children, whether intended or unintended?
Yeah, it's a reality that we have to face with. We talk about the society as it were today, but the family, at the heart of every society is the family unit. There is in the family unit, the way we have seen it, there is a father, there is a mother. They have different roles and different functions. Civilization have changed so many things for us today. It used to be the father goes out, go fend for the family, and then come back. The mother stays back at home, and then look out for the well-being of the children. But roles have changed. Civilization, we have houses now, most of us. We have what we call the dual income family. So the family, as it were, when the roles are misplaced, that's where we begin to get that kind of deficiency. The father is the head, and what makes the head, really, if you look at my physical head here this morning, I have the pairs of my eyes here, which talks about visioning. So everyone who is married today must have what we call a vision for their family. There is my two pairs of hairs. Everyone who is married today must also have a designing mind by the things they hear as to the guidance that they provide for their family. That's where my mouth is, which talked about what I want to actually see in my family. I should be able to talk to my children, influence them. You know, I grew up in an environment where people use words a lot. Some of those words are rather curses. A child is not doing well in the school, they say he has coconut head, or there is water in his there is water in his head. So I think the way we are made, a man is made to influence. And if a man decides to marry, they are made to influence their family. A woman is also made. A woman, beautiful creation. They have what it takes to nurture. So you see that in how they are, every good woman will look out for the welfare of their family. So I think when we don't have these things in perspective, that's where is the beginning of the problem, and that we are faced with it globally today in every culture, really.
Now, would you say that it is becoming increasingly more difficult to bring up children in today's world?
Yes.
Uh-oh. I hadn't even finished my question. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Why is that so?
Okay, yeah, please bring it on, ma'am.
I was going to say, in today's world where, you know, when I was growing up, it wasn't just the family that brought up a child, it was the community. There were no high fences, there were no burglar proofing. So you'd walk down the street and the neighbor would see you going and could call, hey, Alara, where are you going? Does your mother know you are going there?
Yeah.
Could take you back home to go and actually confirm with your mother.
Yeah.
But these days, you see Alara walking down the streets. If you call her Alara, what do you want? Did my mother send you to help her train me? I mean, children can actually talk to you like that. Yeah. So the community is no longer looking after this child together. Yeah. We have become more insular. Yeah. Me, my wife, my children. The next door neighbor with their high fences and me, my wife, my children. Yeah. So is that making it more difficult for
the family unit? Yeah,
yes.
There's so much. The truth is that there's so much pressure on the family unit today. You highlighted it earlier on. What we used to have, when we begin to talk like this, people say we should not talk like that this is a modern world. But that's the truth. I understand that 50, 60 years ago, because of the communal living that we have. If a marriage is having issues, it becomes the problem of the society.
Yes.
Everybody is interested in the web because we look beyond ourselves. We see that, okay, this is a family unit. It represents a smaller unit in this communal society. We can't afford something to go wrong with this family unit. There are children that are attached to this family, and we have that kind of communal living. but it's no more in place today. And we need to really get back to some of those things. I'll be honest with you. I moved into a neighborhood. I didn't know who my neighbor was until after 2 months. It was my wife who said one morning that, oh, we just have to wait and press on these people's bell. Let's even say hello to them. And if you put that in the context of what you said earlier on, when we were growing up, we played together. And I love what Mr. Olagunju said earlier on about even though social media is supposed to help us, but it's also now a problem in that real sense. You find out, I mean, NTA used to be the only TV station when I was growing up. And then if God help you, it starts at 4 p.m., closes after 11 p.m. If God helps you that there is rain in your neighborhood, probably you won't have anything to watch due to poor transmission. So, but the dynamics is different. So now we need to do more. If in my neighborhood, if your parents are not home, easily the neighbors will understand that, because by the time they see you running around, they know that your parents, and somebody is keeping watch over. These are things that we've lost. We've lost that sense of communal living. We've lost that sense of doing things together, raising kids together. I mean, you see school runs, it's not just done for one family only. I mean, children in the neighborhood, and they take turns to do it. These are things, if you ask, it's a bother, it's a concern to us, we need to get back to those things so that we can take the issue. Here you hear a child being talked to by the school teachers today, and the parent goes back to school to go fight the teacher. So these are things that, they said civilization has changed it, but we can build a society where we put value on the family unit.
You know, listening to you talk about this thing, it only takes my mind back to the marriage.
Yeah.
It takes my mind back to the marriage because those are the people that will have the children.
Yeah.
What are the things you know from your experience talking to them? We were having a conversation with Praiseful earlier in the week, I think it was yesterday, and he said, look, a good number of when we're talking about the low-hanging fruit about, you know, the challenge of out-of-school children and a number of other issues, pedophilia and all, said the low-hanging fruit is, one of the low-hanging fruits is parenting. Yeah. That, you know, parents need to pay a little more attention. But the economy is harsher now. You said that raising children now is a lot more difficult now than before. Yes. One of the reasons is the economy. Now, the husband and the wife have to go out, you know, do whatever they have to do, come back home. The children are probably asleep before they come back. Some don't see their children for days until maybe the weekend. So it's like the society is made worse by its own economic realities. So where then does that leave parenting?
Balance. I'll be sincere with you. We talk about this in the workspace. It's called the work-life balance. And I think we need to begin to look at that vis-a-vis our family unit. And with that word balance comes sacrifice. I remember, it's my uncle. This is that at certain stage in his marriage, because I lived with him, the wife had to stop working just to be able to pay attention to his children at that time, who seems to be getting off the track. So there has to be balance. There has to be a change of perspective. There has to be intentionality. If you ask me, children don't beg to be born. We brought them here. And what you said earlier on in the program, the fact that the attitude of most of our parents now, they themselves need parenting. And that takes us back to, there is a concept, the family of origin, which is something that we need to talk about. When we talk to married people, we need to talk, because most of the issues that we all have in our marriages are traceable to where we grew up, the values we picked up, the belief system, the mindset that has been entrenched. And that's what we give to our own offspring, whether knowingly or unknowingly. If I pick up values of truth while I'm growing up, the likely is that that's what I communicate to my children.
Yes.
I've never seen a space where you teach a child, sit down. The lesson for today is how to tell a lie. But if our parents can, children can pick things up. I mean, this is a joke, but it actually happened. A dad was trying to didn't want his creditor to come into his house. So when he saw the man in the camera, he said, go and tell him I'm not home. Yeah. And the innocent boy just goes out there and says, oh, good afternoon, sir. You're welcome. My daddy said I should tell you that he's not home. So we can't actually give what we don't have. A lot of parents grew up from what you can call dysfunctional is relative, really. But the truth is that a lot of parents today grew up in some of those environments that there is nothing to it. So they are finding it very challenging to communicate that to their own children. That's the reality of the hour. Okay, so let's talk some solutions now. So where do we go from here? What do parents need to do? Yes, you've talked about balance, but perhaps that affects urban Nigeria more. But in communities, even in suburban and rural areas, they have their own peculiar challenges as well. So where do we go from here? But perhaps you may want to speak to interventions that haven't really, been as effective as one would expect. Number one, intentionality. We need to ask ourselves, what kind of society do we want to build? And if you look at what is going on around us now, I mean, it's all on the news. A 400-year level student who literally butchered his girlfriend, 300. So that's then you ask yourself the question, for example, where is the compassion in human? Where is that? Are we seeing, okay, life is not all about making money. And I know you know that, all right, because there is a level when you start making the money, you are saying to yourself, so is this all that it is? I mean, there are more things that are valuable, much more than making money. Making money is good. Number one is, if I will think about this, like I think about intentionality. What do I have to add? What is the legacy that I need to leave? And based on that, it informs the things that I do today so that we can get a productive tomorrow. So I think everyone out there should be intentional. If you're not ready to raise a family, there's no need starting one. Isn't it intentionality that makes parents say, okay, I want my children to turn out better, so I'm going to go to church, or I'm going to go to the mosque, or I'm going to just go to some environment where there is some measure of culture and expectation that if these things continue in this particular way, maybe my children will turn out better. But we haven't seen that to be the case in every case. One of your people in this space told us of clergymen whose children are in rehab here in the city. So how effective then are such interventions as religion, culture, and all those things? I think there's so much assumptions that we have. I was looking up at something just before I came in here about the countries who pray. And interestingly, Nigeria ranked the second on that list. And at the same time... how many countries? There are many of them. And at the same time, they pulled apart the country where terrorism seems to thrive. So if they said 97% of Nigerians do pray on a daily basis, and then we rank 16 worldwide in terms of terrorism. So you say to yourself that it's not just the religious. A lot of us, we assume things about religion. We can go to church, go to a mosque, but it's another thing to put into practice, into daily experiences, what you learn or you picked up. I can come here, learn about culture, go through school. School may not actually go through me. What they said, education is the Latin word educo, which means to induce solution from within. So it means when I'm confronted with life situation, my frame of references, by the things I expose myself, whether it's culture, which is mindset, or whether it's religion, to be able to put that into the context. You're talking about religion now. Every religious persuasion put value on the family unit. But do people actually follow those things? They don't.
You spoke earlier about the 400-level chap who butchered his girlfriend. And I was going to draw to your attention that if we look closer, we might even find that that boy is the child of a pastor or a preacher.
Okay.
So would you say that he hasn't been imbued with the right kind of values? Of course he has.
Well, it's really, really, and I think I said it earlier on here, the fact that we need to imbibe values, no doubt about it, but we need to live the value. So I can be a pastor, I can preach to the world, and don't preach to my household. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I can be even a counselor and a therapist and not apply the things that I'm teaching other people to my own home. So I think the balance is, the intervention will be becoming what we want to see in the larger society, becoming that to our own children. That's the number one thing. If I want a society, as simple as this may sound, if I have my kids in the car and I'm breaking, as simple as this, breaking traffic light, I'm already communicating something.
Of course.
If I do, for example, get into provocation, street rage,
brawl.
So I'm communicating something to. So every parent, everyone who decides to be a parent, because it's a decision, must say this is a heavy responsibility. This is something that we must live by. We need to build a society where, and it's not far-fetched, because that's where most of us grew up. That's the environment we all grew up, where people took responsibility. And we need to start taking responsibility for other people that we are also passing on this baton to.
Okay. Someone is making a suggestion that this whole parenting thing, there has to be some collaboration.
Yeah.
You've spoken about communal parenting.
Yeah.
Another community that the child goes to is the school.
Yeah.
If you do your bit, play your part in trying to be the kind of parent you think your child needs, and the other fellow does not, your child is going to be in the same class with that child. The responsibility tends to fall on the teacher, doesn't it? So how do we marry all these? Don't forget that the teacher is probably also a parent.
Yeah, the way, which is also, sharing your thought earlier on about parents now, that they also need to be parented. Do you know that, I may be wrong, but I think there are a whole lot of assumptions that goes on with this parenting thing. Number one, the parent is at home. He or she is not contributing to the life of the child. The child is given maybe a phone to sort himself or herself out because the parent wants to do something. So, and if the child wants anything, any attention, if they have house helps, the child is directed to that house. Can you see the teaching line, the influence is not supposed. So the parent is also making money and feel that all that he owes the child is the best school in town. So he takes the child also to school. And the child spends many hours in the school at the mercy of a teacher. You know that's and the child comes back and then goes to lesson teacher, as it were. And at the end of the day, the parent comes back. If you look at the daily input in the life of a child, I think the parent has a key role, but we have abdicated all this authority. And then if you go over the weekend, they abdicate that same authority to their religious institution. to teach their child morals. And even if a child is getting lessons from all those things, if the parent is not living, so children, you can't confuse a child.
That's where I was going. That going to church alone, those children don't believe that they will gain anything from going to church, because what they see at home is more important than whatever they hear or whatever they're told in church. Their parents have to be the example of what the parents want the child to be. Even if you go to church 50 times a week, it will not affect the way the child is or the way the child turns out. Because they see you going to church and praying, but they see other things that daddy has a girlfriend, and he's going to church and he's telling me about values.
Exactly.
Mommy goes out, doesn't tell daddy where she's going, comes back late, and she's telling me about values.
And then
those will have more effect on their lives than whatever they're taught in church or in school. So they think going to church is a waste of time.
So that's exactly what I don't know how. It's not that I'm confused how we got here. We know that we've lost the values. Do you know that there are children who didn't know their biological parents? They were handed over to a grandmother who is not even literate, who is an illiterate. And yet they turn out well. They are professors, they are doctors in the larger society today. Why? That woman, with that limited knowledge that she has as a grandparent or a grandmother, was able to communicate sustaining values. It was like a curriculum that even the formal school doesn't offer. So everything still boils down to the home. And that child has to pass maybe through an uncle and an auntie. They can see living example. I know that if you talk to those generations, many of them became doctors just because one uncle, one aunt influenced them somewhere. So the family unit is a bedrock. The family unit is that place of primary influence for any child. Every other thing the child has access to, whether through formal education or through religious education or through the society as it were, is just an addition to what the child.
Well, it sounds like another part one.
As usual. Well, at least he's not leaving us sad today. Thank God for that. Mr. Ayo Daniels, Family Life Counselor, thank you very much for coming. And thank you for not leaving us sad. We do appreciate that. Thank you very much
for having me, sir.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with the home stretch.